fact that you have a full-time job, father of 3. Tell me, how do you balance all that while trying to get something started?
Things can get a little crazy at times, but you got to learn how to make time for yourself when you need to make time for yourself.
What do you specifically do when you're dealing with actual conflict?
Conflicts are gonna happen. You can't run from it. You're just prolonging what needs to be done.
A time where you had you got a 5-star review and what you thought you did that was above and beyond.
On my pickup, I accidentally hit the water line and it just starts shooting up water.
Hello and welcome to the Jump Orange podcast. My name is Alan, and today I have a very special guest with me today. I have Mr. Jesse Hagee, and he is from Bouncing Frowns Upside Down. Now, you want to tell us a little bit where you located?
Yeah, Bouncing Frowns Upside Down is located in Tampa, Florida, about hour and 50 minutes from the JumpOrange store that just opened up in Castleberry, which is very convenient for us, because we're good members with you guys.
Well, we are very glad that we got a Florida, our feet wet in Florida. It's really been a big benefit for us.
For sure.
But today what we're going to talk about on our podcast is we're going to talk about how to have great customer service and how to kind of work through, excelling through your great customer service, but also working through maybe some of the more difficult points. And kind of get started, what I'd like to know is, you've been in business for, I think you said you're starting year 4.
Just started year 4.
So, what is your, I want you to kind of talk about a little bit how you got into the business and how you were able to balance the fact that you have a full-time job somewhere else and you're also a father of 3.
Yeah.
That's a lot to balance.
For sure.
Tell me, how do you balance all that while trying to get something started?
Well, balance is the key to life in a sense. And, I wait tables Monday through Thursday, full-time father. And then we started the bounce house business. So we got that in line, and things can get a little crazy at times, but you got to learn how to understand everything and make time for yourself and make time for everything, and especially make time for yourself when you need to make time for yourself. So I think just with all the busyness and productivity, that's what kind of keeps me in check and keeps me going. Mm-hmm. Because if I stay productive and constantly escalating up the ladder, then I think that's always a good thing. You got to enjoy what you've asked for, but be hungry for more in a sense.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's terrific. That's great advice.
Yeah.
In general, how to kind of expand a little bit more, what do you specifically do when you're dealing with actual conflicts? Because like you said, you have a full-time job, you're a full-time dad, and you got this business. When you do have conflicts, what are some of your techniques that you use, or what are some things you do to try to avoid scheduling conflicts, but sometimes they're going to arise? So maybe talk about how you handle the ones that do arise, and then some things that you do to kind of prevent them. Because I'm sure with experience, you learn a lot of techniques on how to prevent scheduling conflicts as well.
No, for sure. And that's one thing you have to understand just in anything. Conflicts are going to happen. It's what do you do when that conflict happens? Because you can't run from it. You're just prolonging what needs to be done, right? So we like to jump on it, get it handled, and knock it right out the park. Of course, very busy with the 3 kids, full-time job, and Bouncing Frowns Upside Down. Heavy on communication with our clients and heavy on letting them know, hey, these are around the time we're dropping off, whether we're dropping off a day early or whether we're picking up a day late or we're picking up, we kind of try to communicate to make their time and our time correlate. So if I'm dropping it off and helping them out for an extra day and it's really helping me out on the back end, I think it's good business for everybody in a sense,
That's a good technique, is to kind of maybe give them an extra day, but really it's because you can't pick them up that day.
Maybe we're at the beach enjoying a hard vacation because we worked all weekend. So, you have to kind of, and that's the thing, communication with the clients is really important. As soon as we say we get an invoice in, we'll text that client within that day and let them know, hey, Jesse with Bouncing Frowns Upside Down will be hosting your event on whatever date you selected, and we can't wait to see you. We let it known that, hey, this is our information. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, this is how you can reach us, giving them multiple ways to contact us so we know we're protecting ourselves on the back end. The more conflicts in a sense is good in a sense because you're learning from that situation. And if it happens again, you know how to handle the situation.
You give them an extra day, and that's a great way to earn a little, extra bonus, And, this business runs off reviews. Like if you have a good standing with your clients and they tell people, word of mouth is a huge way to expand your business. Can you give us a time when, specifically, like a time where you had you got a 5-star review and how what you thought you did that was above and beyond, or how it came about? And
No, for
you got
sure.
one? Oh,
Yeah, I got a couple. I'll just tell you one. Dropping off a water slide middle of the summer with
okay.
a new client. So they've actually got our reviews from another client and decided to use us. And sometimes on these houses, it's a real tight fit. You have
Getting in the backyard.
into the backyard. They have a gate, so it's just like, okay, you don't want to break nothing, whether it's a sprinkler head or anything along those lines. So on my pickup, when I'm grabbing the slide, of course, it's not going to be a perfect roll because it's a little wet and whatnot, and you're just not going to get it as tight as you want it, but you're going to try to get it as tight as possible to get it out the door. So I'm taking care of this awesome family, and I accidentally hit the water line. So boom, hit the water line, the main water line out the house, side of the house, and it just starts shooting up water. So, of course, huge conflict. Luckily, the lady was home, and I'm trying to fix it before I go knock on this door, but I can't seem to find the lever on the water line. So I go around, look in the front where the green box is, open it, shut the water off. And luckily, her husband was a contractor, and he knew how to do everything and said he would do it. But the thing is, you have to make it known with the client like you care. And we offered our full support. Hey, whatever, just send us the receipts. We'll be happy to take care of everything. We apologize, here's 50% off your next rental as well, just in case, just to make that client happy. Of course, when you're in the fault, you have to own up to that. That's a heavy thing as well. Luckily, given we did what we did and provided an awesome service, and she still left us an awesome review, we didn't have to pay for nothing, and they still use us to this day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is an amazing 5-star review with a crazy backstory.
Yeah.
Now, that particular backstory could have led to a very negative experience for you. So you did that at the right house for sure.
Wrong mistake at the right house, which is good, which is good.
But let's kind of like look at it from the other side. So if this would have been like a negative experience, what do you think are the misconceptions that people have when trying to deal with a negative experience or negative client?
If you look at the situation, that client has every right to be a little upset. I just knocked out her main water hose. So all her water in her house is off. Luckily, her kid's at school. Luckily, her husband was a contractor. It was like, someone was looking out for me that day, which was a good thing. So I think in that situation, you have to understand emotions. And depending on who's hot-headed, it's not important to have two people angry in one situation.
Okay.
It's always good to have a level-headed mind. Like at that situation, I understood what I did, and I took full accountability for that. And we would like to, and I think that's what really made it a big difference. If I would have just walked off and said nothing and, whatever, it could have been severely bad. But by me actually taking initiative, knocking on that door, hey, this is what I did. Hey, I'm willing to get a plumber out here as soon as possible, or anything that needs to be done to resolve this issue. At that point, money kind of goes out the window, and we're not looking at money like that. We're making sure client is happy, because we're going to get money when the client is happy. So it's kind of like in business, you want to look at it. Of course, we want to make money. But if you open this door to client happiness, there's so much money behind that's really what you got to focus on, in a sense. I was always getting in trouble in school when I was younger for talking. Just, interrupting teachers, nothing bad, just I was a talkative human, and that skill is underappreciated nowadays, because sometimes it's about the communication, which will take you a lot farther than your actual work. So it's good to have both of those in play, and just expelling it. I get a lot of clients from waiting tables as well, talking, bringing it up, and then, boom, they'll check your Google listings, and they're like, oh, okay, this guy, he's legit, because you'll have a lot of businesses out there that aren't really legit, or, from Marketplace or Facebook or things like that. So I think, when you're licensed and insured, it's important as well. And just the quality of inflatables and whatnot that you bring to it, making sure it's clean, making sure it's set up on time, making sure you're early, making sure you look good in a sense. I got logos and information on all the shirts that I wear. This is a polo shirt, but I got the dry fit on when I'm dropping everything off and stuff, weather efficiently. So I think that comes in the key too, how setting a standard makes it better for your company. And understanding that, hey, we don't want nothing less than this quality, and we won't settle for nothing less. It's like when you go to a high-end restaurant, you know what you're expecting out of this place. We're going to get good service, we're going to get good food, we're going to get everything all around that makes this an ambiance, that makes this a 9 out of 10. So when you show up for that drop, you want to be ready, you want to have a smile on your face, there's kids around, you want to be kid friendly in a sense. Hey, what's up, guys? If it's a little kid's birthday, happy birthday, hoping you're a good one. Even sometimes I've handed the birthday kid $10-20, if I get it cash, just because, hey, it looks so good in the back end.
I love it.
Yeah, of course, it looks good. You got to take care of the people in a sense.
So like you're saying, like if you go to a restaurant, you're expecting 9 out of 10 service, that also helps you kind of set your pricing. Well, that's a whole different, that's a whole new podcast.
Pricing's important as well. There's couple different steps of pricing, and you got to understand what clientele that you want. So.
Right. But like I was saying, like if people get to, they're like, oh, this guy's not really, I didn't have a great experience with him, they might go back to you if the price is right. But if you gave them tip top service and your pricing might be, fair market or maybe a little above, but if your experience is so great and you made little Johnny so happy by giving him an extra 20, or you said, hey, go test out the slide for me, and the kid's like, oh, I can get on it now before all my friends get here, this is great, boom, you set it up. And like you said, it's all about building up those client relations. But one question I want to kind of ask a little selfishly is, how do you feel like JumpOrange's selection of inventory has helped either get new customers or help you with your retention? That's what we're talking about, is how to keep those customers. What do you think? How do you think JumpOrange's selection of units or has helped you with that?
I think JumpOrange is a phenomenal company. I've never had anything bad happen. We have, I want to say this is our sixth or seventh unit from you guys, if I'm not mistaken, and we're heavy on our units being top quality. We like the quality. We like the factors on how the design looks. We don't want our slides to look anything like anyone else's in our area, so we'll study our competition in our area, see what they got, see what we want to add to our inventory. And we just like the way you guys bring things. We're an ecstatic company. We like colors. We love being vibrant. It's what brings the funk to the party, and that's kind of what you want to bring to the party. You could have a basic blue bounce house for the boy, or you can have the blue one with the astronaut heads, and then you got the planets in the back. So what is it that you want to bring? Plus you could probably charge a little bit more for those things that look a little crazier in a sense, instead of just your neutral bounce houses.
I agree. And, one thing about JumpOrange, like this past year, or 2025, we released more new units than we've ever released. Yeah. And we have all these crazy designs. We have a gummy bear unit. We had a
19-foot one we got.
Oh, okay.
That's what we're picking up today, and we're excited for that. Like I said, the colors on that are just crazy. You got the big pink bear next to the honey pot. And I just think that's, when we drop it off, we want people to be like, wow, they're like, we've never seen something like this. And we get a lot of that with our inventory, putting information out about that inflatable is important too. Having the dimensions on your website when people go to book it, to save you questions getting asked, having a full paragraph of everything that specifies what this unit is and what it brings to the table could save you a lot of questions, and save a lot of time in that sense too, when you already have answers to questions that are already getting asked. We bring our water hoses for a sense. Sometimes I hear other companies pull up, have to go to the store and get a bounce house. I meant a water hose. So
hopefully not a bounce house.
Yeah, that would suck. Sorry about that. So it's just like simple thing like that. We don't charge for a water hose either. So it's just like simplistic things like that could ultimately just make the difference on a lot of things. It sounds stupid, but in reality, if you go to the house and they don't have a water hose, you didn't bring a water hose, you're knocking 30 minutes to an hour at a time going to get that water hose. So you kind of have to prepare for what's going on. And I think preparation is extremely important as well. If you're not prepared, you're not going to be ready for that day.
Well, I think this might be a good time to kind of wrap things up because
Yeah.
you're talking about questions you might get, or you can answer questions ahead of time. So let's give you a chance to answer a question for someone brand new.
Yeah.
So my question for you is, what piece of advice can you give someone who's an aspiring entrepreneur in the rental business, the rental party industry?
You have to have a lot of heart for it, you know. You could have a home run one weekend and then strike out the next weekend. So it's all about maintaining your emotions. Of course, we want a home run every weekend. Is that going to happen? No. You also got to put the work in. You can't just buy a bounce house and have it sitting and expect it to be busy. Go put the work out. Are you advertising, telling your friends, hey, I got this? Beginning may be a little different because you're just setting up the initial business module, so things may have changed throughout the months. You know, you may raise prices because you got to understand that it takes this or this and that, but in the long run, you got to put your full heart into it, and you know, do it with a little bit of passion, because there's a lot of people trying to do everything that anyone wants to do, whether it's bounce houses, plumbing, electrician, being a teacher. There's 100 other people in that field that are putting the work in.
The hard work and being flexible, like you said, it seems like it makes all the difference.
It is, man.
But we are going to go ahead and wrap up this podcast. So thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure you check us out on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you might be listening in from. We appreciate you coming and listening in and giving us a great follow here on the Jump Board Podcast. We also like to give a big thank you out to Jesse and Bouncing Frowns Upside Down. Yes. Once again, we hope you do well, and we definitely need to go get your truck loaded up with that 19-foot gummy bear.
19-foot gummy bear is going to be amazing for our inventory. We appreciate Alan's time and Jump Orange's time, and check them out. These guys have some amazing inventory, amazing personalities, and they're just really good people to do business with.
Well, thank you for that plug, my friend.
Alan, it's always a pleasure.
You guys take care, and thank you for joining us again.